Hello, and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. Today we're going to put some of the things that you've learned into practice so you'll know how to count music, and I want to show you some things that you might not be aware of. Not that you at this point would ever run into it, but that it's interesting to see, because music can be very mathematical, but I don't want to teach you to think of music as if it were mathematical, but it turns out to be, and sometimes you can write music in different ways and get the same thing. So I'm going to start off by showing you, and I'll use my pointer if we can just show you this music to begin with. This is a hymn. I didn't write it. It's a hymn. It's called Morning Has Broken. And you'll notice that it's written in 9/4 time. And I've written the same thing in 3/4 time, and it sounds exactly the same. So when you think of 9/4 time, what does that mean? Well, it means there's 9 beats to a measure. And when you have 9 beats to a measure and a quarter note, because it's a 4, a quarter note gets 1 beat. So you can see that the measure is going to be pretty long. So how do you get 9 beats to a measure? Well, I'm going to count this out for you now, if we can just kind of look at that and bear with me, and then I'll take you down to 3/4 time, which is going to sound exactly alike if I play both of them. So here we go. This is the introduction. It's only 1 measure long. I didn't put the word intro, but it's obvious that's what it is, and the quarter note gets 1 beat, so 1, 2, 3. All right, now here's a dotted half, and 3/4. How do I get 9 beats out of that? Well, a dotted half is worth 3 beats, and a dotted half is worth another 3 beats, which gives you 6, and then 3/4 notes is 1, 2, 3, and that adds up to 9. So how do I get 3 beats out of a dotted half? Well, a dotted half is worth 2 beats. I mean, a half note is worth 2 beats. When you have a dot besides a note, it's worth half as much as the note is worth. So if a half note is worth 2 beats and a dot gives it half of that, half of 2 is 1, you add that 1 to the 2 and you get a 3-beat note. And that's the way it is in 4/4 time. Now, if I did it in another type of time signature, that might not be the case, but I don't want to get too complicated. This is where music gets a little mathematical. So you have 3 beats, 7, 8, 9. Now in here it's the same thing. 3 beats, 1, 2, 3. 3 beats, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's the pattern. When you get down here, 3 beats, and there's a tie there, so you play it as if it was 1 note, not 2. So you tongue this, and you just hold it for that extra 3 beats without tonguing it, so it's like a much longer note. And here are your 3/4 notes. That's the pattern for this whole song. And when you get here, you have your 9 beats, but I actually probably wouldn't be holding it for that long, but those are tied together. Now, if I go down to the 3/4, what I'm doing is I'm actually taking more measures with less notes in each measure, but it's an awful lot easier to count. 1, 2, 3. Instead of 9/4, it's 3/4. So there's 3 beats to the measure, and here again, it's still the quarter note gets 1 beat. So 1, 2, 3, or actually, it would be 1, 2, 3. Then this would be 3 beats. This would be 3 beats. These quarter notes are 3 beats. These are all 3 beats, and it's just a much, much easier way of counting the notes. But it's going to sound exactly the same. And I've tried to figure out, why would anybody write in 9/4? It's not something you see very often, but I've seen it in hymns a number of times, and I really think the reason, just figuring it out for myself, and I could be wrong as well as right, is that you've got a lot of harmony notes going in the background, and they may need a longer measure in order to accommodate all of the harmony that's going on. But of course, I'm not playing the harmony, I'm playing the melody. So therefore, I don't make these measures that long. I don't have to wait for someone to fill in with a certain type of harmony. I don't have to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it, but if I play it 9/4 or 3/4, it's going to be exactly the time. It's just counted differently. For the 9/4, it's 1, 2, 3, or 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All the way through. Here it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And of course, it would be easier to conduct it if it's 3/4 as well. It is a hymn, Morning Has Broken. I'll play it for you, and what I'd like to have you do is just follow along. See if you can follow me on the top, if we can get a shot of that on the top. See if you can count along, because if you're playing, you can't count at the same time. But see if you can figure it out, what I'm doing, because I want you to get used to the differences in the time signature. It's a beautiful hymn. A lot of people like it very much. It's played a lot, and I'm just using it for teaching purposes now. So this is the way it goes. And that's the whole thing. That's what it is, the whole thing. And of course, you probably have, there are actually 3 verses to it, so I would be playing it, if I was playing it in a church service, I would be playing it 3 times. And that's a good length for a hymn. I mean, it's not terribly, terribly long, so you're not feeling like you're sitting there forever while it's being played. And usually, there's no introduction, but I could put in an introduction. A lot of hymns don't have an introduction written in, but usually you start off playing something, especially a hymn, you put an introduction of it, and it's not the whole hymn, although I've done the whole hymn before as an introduction, but usually not. You take the last few notes and you make it like a lead-in. Introduction is like a lead-in to the song. So I might say these last 4 notes, basically, E, F sharp, E, D, and I could do it that way and make an introduction to it, and it would sound like this. So you see what I'm doing. I add that little, a few little notes in the beginning. It might be a whole last line, or it may be just a few measures, or 3 or 4 measures, and that also gives the pitch to the congregation that's singing it, because they don't know what key you're in. And being sometimes the only musician in a particular church I'm helping out right now, I can rearrange the music according to what's a good key. I was asked to do a song that was 5 flats. And 5 flats, recorders can't do. And I'm going to get into key signatures either today or next week, but probably today. And there are certain key signatures, what's called key signatures, that instruments can play, the recorders can play easily. The key of C, which the recorder is built for, but the key of G, D, F. And sometimes I can squeak out a B flat, and so those keys you can play in fairly easily. But when you get to 4 and 5 flats, the C melody recorders can't do it. And so what I did was I rearranged the whole song in a different key. Now, nobody would know that if I'm the only one that's playing, because the song is going to sound the same, but the range of it is going to be different. When you have key signatures, it might be marked, and I'll show you this a little later. It'll be marked what the key signature is, and you'll know how many sharps and flats are in there. And that's important to know, because you have to play around what the key signature signature is, and you have to know what the key signature is and how you figure the notes and when you do the flats or when you do the sharps and if it's changed or not. And there are a series of things that you need to know. But that'll be evident when you start to play it. When you look at the time signature and you look at the key signature, you know exactly what that means. As you're learning, you just learn it as you go. But I want to show you how it gets there and why it is what it is, and we'll probably start some of that today. So that was the first song that I wanted to show you in terms of the time signature. Now I'm going to take this down, and I'm going to put this next one up. This is just something that I wrote myself. And what we are doing, and the reason that I wrote it is the fact, oops, let me just move, because I have to have a copy of everything I'm showing you. Let's see. Well, it's not exactly, I'm going to take this down and do something else. We'll put this up instead, because I want to show you something else. Here is something else in which I changed the key, the timing signature. It starts off with a 4/4. This 4/4 time means that you have 4 beats to a measure, and you have the quarter note getting 1 beat. Now what I want you to get used to is the fact that you have a dotted 8th and 16th, that's 1 beat, and then you have triplets, which are 3 notes, that's also 1 beat, and then you have your dotted 8th and 16th 1 beat, and your dotted 8th and 16th 1 beat. So as you're counting this in 4/4 time, this is your introduction is just 1 note, and this is 1 beat, 2 beats, 3 beats, 4 beats. 1 beat, 2 beats, the 3rd beat is a quarter note, and the 4th beat is another quarter note. So it's in 4/4 time, but you need to be able to recognize that dotted 8th and 16th is 1 beat, and triplets, 3 notes to 1 beat, so that really counts as 1 beat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it. It's kind of a march that I wrote. I'm going to play it slow. When you start to practice and when you start to learn, you need to start off slow. The first thing you need to know is to read the time signature and the key signature. Now, in this song, there is no key signature. I didn't write any flats or any sharps in it, so therefore, it is in the key of C. Anything in the key of C has no sharps and has no flats. So I'm going to play it, but I'm going to play it slow. Now you can tell a difference when you are playing it. The triplets will go 3 beats, 3 notes to a beat. One, 2, 3, 4. Now you'll notice when I tongue that, I'm not blurring it, I'm just simply tonguing it. And what I'm doing is I'm putting my tongue right on the edge. When I'm tonguing something, I put that right on the edge of the mouthpiece. And as fast as I can withdraw my tongue and put it back on means I can tongue as fast as I can. I can tongue as fast as I want. That's the way you tongue. When you put the instrument in your mouth, you put it 1/3 of the way in, and your teeth are on the top. You don't curve your lip over your teeth. Your teeth go on the top of the mouthpiece, and your lip curves a little over your bottom teeth. So it's like this. And you really have to know how to tongue. You're not going to be able to play music just by blowing in. I remember going to a conference, and we brought some students in. It was a recorder orchestra that I was in. And we brought some students in, and they were very excited because they had their own instruments now. They had their own recorders. It was a gift. And it was around Christmas time. But they didn't have any kind of a concept as to how to tongue. So they're blowing. There's nothing crisp about it. You can't play anything fast that way. You have to attack it in a sense. By attack it, you do it gently. You just put your tongue on that and you withdraw your tongue quickly and you keep doing it as much as you need to do it depending upon what you're playing. If you're slurring it, you tongue the first note, but you don't tongue anything else that's slurred. Those would be slurs, or if you have one note and you just hold it over, then it's called a tie or a hold. It's the same thing, you just don't tongue it. You tongue the first note and just hold it as long as you need to hold it. So you have to learn how to tongue. So what can I do if I wanted to play this? Could I play it in another whole time signature? And the answer is yes, probably. If I never can find my, oh, here it is. Down here, if we look down here, I've got basically the same song. It's written in 3/4 time, waltz tempo. This is 4/4, which would be march tempo or regular tempos for songs, but this would be like a waltz tempo, 3 beats to a measure, and the quarter note gets 1 beat. So I'm going to play it. I won't play it too fast. I want you to see if you can follow this as I'm playing it and see if you can follow what I'm doing. And remember I'll play the first line the way that I did up here, and then I'll start off and play this other one in a different time signature. Now, this is in waltz tempo, 3/4, but it's basically the same song. But I'll have to make it a fast 3/4 in order to do it. So you can see, I left part of it out, but you get the gist of it. It sounds a little bit different. It may sound a little bit smoother. The notes are basically the same. I'm just changing the rhythm a little bit, and I'm basically getting the same song. Now, if I wanted to really speed it up, I probably could get it to sound exactly alike. But there's something about the dotted eighth and 16ths that gives it kind of a galloping sound, because this note, technically, the dotted eighth, is actually 3 times longer than the 16th. Now, there's a reason for that, and I have discussed it a little bit before, but for now, just trust me, it's 3 times longer than that. And then you have the triplets, which are the same length, but there are 3 to a beat, but there's no change in the way they sound. They're all the same. So for the dotted eighth 16th, you get this kind of a rhythm. Now that's hard to replicate when you are doing it in a waltz tempo. You end up with the faster I do it, the more it sounds like a dotted eighth and 16th. But the reason I bring this up to you at all is the fact that I want you to see that music can be written in different ways, and you can still pretty much get the same song out of it. I could write it in a different key. I don't want to do that now because I haven't prepared for that, but I could write it in a different key, and it would sound the same. If you're the only musician in a place, then you can do pretty much what you want, because if you have a song that's written in a key that your instrument has a hard time doing, or you're not skilled at it, then you can usually rewrite the song in a different key. It still sounds the same to anyone who's going to be listening to it, but it's a lot easier to play. And so when they said, would you play this song, they had no knowledge of the fact that 5 flats is a little too much for the instrument I was using, but I rewrote it because no one else would be playing with me. So I rewrote it to a different key, which was much simpler. It sounded the same. They were happy with it. I was happy with it. It was reasonably easy to play. So there are different ways of writing. There are different ways of tonguing, or different ways of tonguing and slurring. You can make 2 songs out of 1 song just by changing it a little bit. You could harmonize in a little different way. There's all kinds of things that you can do with music. So I'm going to close it here. And what I want to do next time, I want to start on scales, describe them, show you how they come to be, and this kind of thing. And although for some people this seems complicated, we're going to try to make it easy to understand. So we'll close it here. Please join me next time.